Okay, so in this class we're going to be introducing our gemstones. We're going to be placing some gemstones, and we'll see that these come in as a component entity, and we'll be looking at what a component is. We'll also be taking a look at the extrude command in the shape ribbon tab, and then we'll be using the extrude to create a basic bezel setting for our gemstone. So we're going to get started by creating a new file, creating a new part, and we're going to use the generic template, the blank template. Let's give it a name. Okay, and here we are in our 3D environment at the part level. So I'm going to go straight ahead and place a gemstone. Okay, we're here in the Gems and Settings ribbon tab. Okay, by default you may find yourself in the Shape ribbon tab. So we're coming into the Gems and Settings ribbon tab, and we navigate to the Place Stones command. This is the command we use to place our stones. So left click, and this opens up our Command Input Manager with the Options panel, and also a gemstone library. Okay, this pop-out box. Now in this gemstone library we have 3 tabs on the left where we can select different stone types. We have our faceted stones, pearls, cabochons. Okay, and in each of these stone types we have a library, a carousel of the shapes for the stones. And these are the shapes that we'll find within the jewelry industry. Okay, we can then select a gemstone type using this drop down menu here. Here we have all the different types of gemstones in here that we'll find within the industry. Sapphires, quartz, opal, etc. Okay. And in each gemstone we'll get to see the specific weight of that material, okay, the density. In the white diamond gemstone we're also able to select a grade, and we're using the standard GIA grading system from flawless to imperfect or included. Okay, and alongside this we're able to select a color for our white diamond. Okay, so this ranges from D, which is clear, colorless, to M, where we'll have a faint yellowish or brownish color. Okay, we can also manually change our color in this color palette on the right hand side. Okay, we can scroll around and pick our color. Okay, so then on the left hand side again we have 2 more tabs. We're currently in the gemstone area. If we left click on the dimensions icon, we're taken into the dimensions area where we are able to dimension our stones. Okay, so if we hover our cursor over the screen, it's going to throw in our stone automatically to the center point, because this is our only pick point that we currently have in our 3D environment. So let's give ourselves a length of 6.5. This is going to give our round stone, the brilliant cut stone, it's going to give it a diameter of 6.5 millimeters, and this is typically around 1 carat. Again, we can see our weight here, 1 carat approximately, which is about 1/5 of the gram, 200 milligrams. Okay, if we hover our cursor over the screen now, we can see our preview. Our preview is also called an echo. Okay, we also have the ability to manually change our width and our depth of our stone by checking the respective box for them and then making a modification to it. If we leave these unchecked, when we change the length, the width and the depth will also be modified based on a standard size. Okay, so we can see our gemstone preview here. If we navigate back to our gemstone area, now let's place our stone. We left click when we see the preview where we like it, and this places our stone. We have the ability to place multiple stones at one time, but right now I have no other pick points available. So in our options panel in the input manager, we can mirror our stones across a plane. We can give them an elevation, and we can also rotate them. In this case, a rotation, it doesn't matter because our stone is round. Okay, so let's confirm this operation. And there we have our 1 carat round diamond. Okay, so now I'm going to create a few more points that I can place stones on. I'm going to do this by copying a datum. So let's change our entity filter to datum. Let's switch to a wireframe display mode. I'm going to come into the shape ribbon tab. I'm going to select copy. I'm going to copy my top down datum. I'm going to copy it with the direction method. Our direction will be the y-axis, and let's copy at a distance of, 10 was good, 10 millimeters. Okay, and I'm going to make a few copies of this. Confirm. Okay, so we've copied our datum to these points. I'm also going to create a block. Let's switch back to our shaded mode. Okay, now let's bring back up our place stones command. Okay, so now I'm going to place multiple stones on this surface. Okay, so let's place multiple ovals. Okay, let's give them a dimension of 2 millimeters in length. And let's change to the emerald. Okay, so we can pick a point. We can keep picking. Okay, we can then come into our gemstone library, make a modification to the length, let's say 3, and we can continue placing the stone. We can change the color. Let's make it a blue sapphire. We can continue placing. Let's give them a slight elevation. And I'll confirm the operation. Okay, so there we go. It's placing multiple stones. Now our gemstones are brought in as components. Their entity type, if we look in the entity filter, is a component. Okay, now I'll explain exactly what a component is a little later on. But essentially it is not a shape. Okay. However, it can be converted into a shape. Okay, so let's place a few more stones. Let's try out our pearls. Give it any old dimension. We'll place it on this datum. Confirm. Okay, we have a pearl. Okay, let's middle click to bring up the last operation. Now let's try out a cabochon. Okay, now a cabochon typically have a smooth, rounded top and a next to flat bottom. Okay, in the cabochon dimensions area, we have control over the length, width and height. Okay, so let's crank this up to maybe a 3 in height. Place it here. Confirm the operation. Okay, we have a cabochon. Now if we want to change the color of our gemstone at a later point, we can use our assign materials icon, our assign materials command, next to the place stones command. If we left click, we again have a materials pop-up panel and our options panel. Okay, we are prompted to pick a stone. Okay, so remember our entity filter must be set to component because our stones are components. We can then pick a stone, and then we can modify the color. We'll change the gemstone type to cabochon because it is a cabochon, and we can give it a color. Confirm the operation, and the color has been changed. Okay, so here we have seen how to bring in some stones. There are other methods that we can use. We can pave surfaces, we can create specialty stones like the tapered baguette, and we will learn about these as we progress. Okay, so now I'm going to delete these stones that I've created, apart from our center 1 carat stone. I'll also erase the block, so I'm just dragging my model stop up to before I created the block in the history. I can then delete the next operations by using this icon down here. Alternatively, I could window pick all of the operations in the history, right click, delete. And one more method is to use our end replay, this little square icon, the lower right hand corner of our replay panel. If we left click on this, it's going to delete all of the unplayed history operations. So yes, and there we go. Okay, let's save our work. And now I'm going to take a look at our extrude command in the shape ribbon tab. Now the extrude command is really quite versatile and we can do a lot with it. So to demonstrate the extrude, I'm going to create a sketch first of all. I'm going to right click, insert sketch, left click on this plane. Make sure that use centroid defined by plane is checked, and then we will enter this sketching environment. We are now at the sketching level. So I'm going to create a quick shape. I'm going to use my rectangle. I'm going to use my first method, the center corner method. I'll let it snap to the origin. I'll drag it out an arbitrary distance, and I'm going to give it a width of 5 and a height of 5 millimeters. Confirm. And now I'm going to exit the sketch environment. Now I'm going to create another rectangle, but this time in the wireframe tab I'm going to use the rectangle quick shape here. Now this is creating, as it says, a 3D rectangle. Okay, it will still be in a two-dimensional plane, but we are creating it in the 3D environment, not in the sketching environment. So I'm going to use my second method where I can define a width and a height. I'm going to select my plane. I'm going to select my first point, the center. I'll let it snap to the center of the plane. Left click. Left click to place the points, and I'm going to change them to a 5 by 5. Enter. I'm going to confirm the operation. Okay, so we have what appear to be two rectangles that are the same. However, there is a key difference between the two, and that is one is a sketch, whilst the other is a collection of curves. This is a chain of curves. Okay, and this makes a difference when we come to use our extrude tool. So let's left click on our extrude icon, bringing up the extrude input manager. We have our options panel here with many fields. Our first field is profile. We are prompted to pick a profile, and this is the profile that we are going to extrude. So the profile can be any one of these: a sketch, a curve, an edge, a curve list, or a face. Okay, so we know what all of these are except the curve list. We have yet to learn about what a curve list is. So let's first of all extrude our sketch. Okay, we're going to extrude our rectangle sketch. We left click on the sketch to select it. Let's zoom in a little. I'm using a 3D mouse now, by the way. We have an extrude type. We can pick one-sided extrude, two-sided extrude, or a symmetrical extrude. Okay, and these are pretty straightforward to understand. A one-sided extrude extrudes from one side from our sketch to an endpoint. The symmetrical extrude is very similar. It extrudes from our sketch to an endpoint, but on both sides. The two-sided extrude is slightly different. We're able to pick a start and an end, and they don't necessarily have to be at the point of our sketch. Okay, so let's just create this extrusion for now. We are also able to select a direction for our extrusion. By default, the direction will be normal to our profile. Okay, normal to our profile in this case is the z-axis. So if we set it as the z-axis, it's going to remain the same. Okay, but we can pick any direction to extrude our shape in, and we have various pick tools available to us. Okay, we can pick curved tangents and normals, and we'll go through some of these options in time. Let me quickly show you the 2-point selection tool. Okay, where we can pick a start point and an end point, and the direction will be from that start to the end point. Okay, you can see that my extrude will now go in the direction that I defined, and you can see how this affects my extruded shape. So let's set it back to the z-axis. Next up we have our boolean field, and we've seen how this works. Following on, we are able to give a draft to our extruded shape. Let's show you what a draft does. It's going to create a draft angle on our extruded shape. Okay, and we'll show you how this can be useful when I create a bezel for our stone. Okay, I'll show you the offset in just a moment. The transform is a little more complicated, and we'll go through this at a later stage. Finally, we are able to put end caps or no end caps, and we can choose to keep our profile being the sketch. Okay, so let's confirm this operation. And there you are, we have our extruded shape. We now have a closed, solid shape. Okay, so now let's try to extrude our 3D rectangle. Okay, so when we come into the extrude command again, let's set the entity filter to all, and we try to extrude our rectangle. You see that it is only able to pick our individual curves. Okay, now we can extrude curves, that's fine, but in this case, when we want to extrude this rectangle, we need a way of picking all of these curves, and we are not able to pick multiple profiles in this field. Okay, so in order to combine these curves, we insert what is called a curve list. Okay, we can do this with our right click options within the extrude command. Right click, insert curve list. I'm going to show you how to insert a curve list back in our original environment. So in the same way, we can insert a curve list by right clicking in vacant space, insert curve list. Alternatively, we can navigate into the wireframe tab. We're able to create a curve list here. So when we select this command, we are then prompted to pick curves to form our curve list, so we can pick our curves like so. Now this gives me an opportunity to show you a few more things when it comes to picking. If we happen to pick something that we didn't intend to, we can right click and navigate to unpick last. This will unpick our last picked entity. Alternatively, you can right click, unpick all to unpick everything, and we can then start from scratch. And in the case where we are picking a chain of curves, we can use our quick chain pick by right clicking, quick chain pick. We pick the curve, one curve in the chain, and then the quick chain pick will automatically pick all of the curves that are connected to that curve. Okay, we can also access this quick chain pick by holding the shift key on the keyboard and left clicking. Okay, Okay, so when we have our curve selected, and we confirm the curve list operation, we will see a blue curve list thrown in there. Now our original curves are still there, and I can show you this. I'm going to take my entity filter to curve list. We can pick our entire curve list. You see it now is defining our complete rectangle. If we blank this quickly, you can still see our original curves here. Okay, so now we can extrude this curve list. Extrude, have the entity filter set to curve list, left click the curve list. Okay, and now we have the same behavior as with our other extrusion here. Okay, this time I'm going to show you our offset field. So the offset, we have multiple options. We can shrink or expand our extruded shape. Okay, a negative number will shrink our extruded shape. So here we are shrinking this shape by 0.7 millimeters here. Okay, I should point out that we also have our direct editing tools here that we can drag and drop. Okay, you see a positive number will expand our shape. Moving on, we have the thicken. This allows us to thicken our extruded rectangle on both the inside and the outside. So here we can thicken on our outside, then our inside using our outer and inner offsets. Again, you can see the difference here. We're creating a shape with material missing on the inside. Okay, finally we have the thicken same, which is going to thicken the inner offset the same as the outer. Okay, like so. Let's confirm the operation. Okay, so you can begin to see the many different things we can do with our extrude command. We can create many different shapes using our one extrude command. Okay, I'm now going to show you in our extrude command, we've extruded a curve list, we've extruded a sketch. We can also extrude a face, a planar face. So let's pick this top face here, left click, and then you can see we're able to extrude this face in the same way we did previously. Okay, so let's do a two-sided extrusion. Okay, we can create a endpoint, and now I'm going to shrink my shape slightly, shrink my extruded shape. Okay, and we can now use our Boolean remove to remove our extruded shape from our Boolean shape. Confirm. There you go, you can see again that our extrusion is opening up a lot of possibilities. Okay, so extrude again. I'm now going to show you a line extrusion. Okay, so we can extrude a curve or an edge. So let's extrude an edge, this edge here. We left click, you can then extrude. Let's give it a one-sided extrusion. Extrude up. Now an extruded edge or curve like this will create a face. We can give it a draft, which is going to change the angle of extrusion. Confirm. Okay, and we have a face. We've created a face here. Now, one thing I should point out is you can see that one side of our face is pink, the other side is yellow. Okay, the yellow denotes the outside of the face, the pink denotes the inside of the face. Okay, so you can see that all of our shapes are yellow. Now our shapes are made up of a combination of faces. So if I am to erase a face, middle click, you can see that the inside of our shape is pink because this is the inside of our faces. Undo. Okay, so let's extrude this edge. Extrude it up. Okay, we can then give an offset to our extruded edge, and this will create a shape. So here we are, creating a shape from an edge extrusion. Okay, so you can really see how versatile this extrude command is. Now I'm going to use the extrude command to make a bezel setting for my gemstone. So let's delete these shapes, drag our model stop up to before they were created. In fact, I'll take out the datums as well. Now I'm going to do a window pick, right click, delete. Okay, so here we are, we just have our gemstone. So this is a 6.5mm brilliant cut diamond. Okay, so it's about 1 carat. I'm going to blank this gemstone out. So I'll change my entity filter to component, right click on the component, select blank. Okay, alternatively we could have assigned it to a layer and then deactivated the layer. And in fact our gemstone is automatically assigned to the center stone layer. So let me just show you that quickly. I'm going to unblank all. Instead of blanking, I'm going to disable or hide this layer from view. There you go. Now I'm going to draw a circle, a 3D circle. Let it snap to the global origin. Okay, and it has a diameter of 6.5mm, which is what I want. It's the diameter of the stone. Okay, so I'm going to use my extrude tool. I'm going to extrude this circle 3 times to create a bezel for the stone. So let's activate our center stone layer. Navigate to the extrude tool. My profile is going to be the curve, which is going to be the circle, and the circle is made up of 1 curve, so I do not need to input a curve list. I'm going to do a 2-sided extrusion. Let's go into a front view. Let's extrude the top to around the top of the stone. Top called the table here. This is the table of the stone. And then we will take the extruded shape, this bezel. It's around here. Let's say 4. Let's enter in -4 here. Enter. Okay, now I'm going to add a draft onto my extruded shape. Let's use my direct editing here. It's a lot more visual. We can drag and see what we like. In fact, I did like the 10. So we have a 10-degree angle here. And now let's thicken or expand our extruded shape a little. I'll expand it 1mm. Let's confirm the operation. Okay, so now we're going to perform a second extrusion. Extrude. This time we're going to extrude a planar face, this top face here. Let's go into a front view again. Let's change to a wireframe mode. We're going to be removing this extrusion to remove material from the center of the bezel, so it doesn't matter too much about the exact height of this shape as long as it's greater than the height of this bezel here. So let's give it the 10-degree draft again. This time we're going to shrink the shape. Let's say -1.25. Okay, and we're going to do a remove boolean. Okay, confirm the operation. Okay, you can see we have removed that extruded shape from our first shape. Okay, now I'm going to do a final extrusion to create a seat for the stone to sit on. So I'm going to extrude an edge, this edge here. I'm just going to do a one-sided extrusion down to about here, so -1 to be precise, down to the girdle. This is called the girdle of the stone. Okay, I'm going to expand this shape and I'll give it the draft of 10 as well. Let's drag it out to the edge of the girdle. Okay, and we're going to do a boolean remove again. Confirm. Okay, we've created a seat. We can now add a chamfer to this seat edge to allow the stone to sit a bit more neatly. So we're going to use our chamfer command in the shape ribbon tab. Okay, so we've encountered the chamfer in the sketching environment where we place the chamfer on the meeting point of two curves. This time we're going to chamfer an edge. Okay, so let's pick our edge. And the setback is how far we want our chamfer. Okay, now the setback cannot be greater than the width of the face that we have available. Okay, so when we exceed, it seems here that it is about 0.6 millimeters, we cannot place a chamfer. Okay, we're going to check out the chamfer and the rest of these commands up here in the shape ribbon tab later on in this lesson. Okay, for now let's place this chamfer in. And here we have a basic bezel for our 1 carat stone. Okay, now this is just a very basic example. I'm trying to teach you how versatile our extrude tool is. Okay, so you should not take this as the ideal way to create a bezel for a stone. And in fact, JCD Lite does have a range of pre-made settings for stones. We have a pre-made bezel. If we come into the Gems and Settings tab, you'll see a bezel icon where we can place a bezel, a pre-made bezel. And I'm going to do that now. Okay, so let's take our model stop up to before we start creating our bezel here. Let's delete the rest of history. Let's bring in a bezel. So we're going to use the bezel command. Okay, when we left click here, we get the bezel input manager, and we also have a carousel pop up with all of our different bezel types, our bezels for the different stone shapes. Okay, so I'm just clicking through them here, left clicking. We have a round stone, so we'll use the round bezel. Our gem length is 6.5. Okay, now we'll place our bezel on the center datum. I'm changing to a wireframe mode, snapping to our center datum. Okay, and here's the echo or preview of our bezel, and it looks pretty nice. Okay, we have various parameters to modify our bezel here, and if we would like to use these, we can make a change by scrolling the slider, or we can type in a specific value. Okay, so let's change the length below girdle, that's this length here. Let's give it a 3.5. we then left click on preview to preview our new dimensions. Okay, so then we can confirm the bezel operation, and here is our bezel placed on our stone. Now this bezel, like the stone, is also brought in as a component. Okay, it is not a shape. So if we try to use our shape commands on this bezel, you cannot treat this like a shape. Okay, however, in the assembly ribbon tab, the assembly ribbon tab deals with our components. Okay, and here we have commands to deal with our components. We can move like we do the shapes, except we're moving components. Now what is a component? Well, a component essentially is a shape that has its own predefined history. Okay, so it has its own history like we have here. Now we can enter the history of this component, set our entity filter to component, by double left clicking on the component, or in the history manager, right clicking on the operation, the component, and redefining it. Okay, so let's show you. I'll double click on this bezel component. Okay, and you can see that our history changed. We're now in the history of our bezel. Okay, and we can step through the history and see how it is made. Okay, by revolving a shape. Okay, so we're in the history of the bezel right now. So in order to continue our designing, we must exit out of this component history using our exit icon. Okay, and we exit back into our original part. Okay, so that is essentially what a component is. It has its own history. Okay, and we cannot perform operations on a component like we do for a shape. For example, if we want to do a remove boolean to a shape, you'll see that we cannot, simply because we haven't got any more shapes within this environment. So let's bring in another block. We try to do a remove on this bezel, nothing happens. Okay. However, we can change this component into a shape. We do this by merging the shape. We can do this in the assembly tab, merge, left click merge. We're in the merge input manager. We select our component, confirm the operation. Now this is no longer a component. Our gem still is, but our bezel has been turned into a shape. Now when we merge a component, we lose its history. If we double click on it, we are no longer able to enter the component history. Okay, we've taken the component as it is in its current state and got rid of the history. Okay, we can now perform our typical operations like we do with all other shapes. Okay, so this is our component entity. Let's save our work.